So welcome everybody. I'm happy to have my panelists with me today. Hey, how are you guys? As Sarah always also pointed out, we are holding a panel today about building DeFi infrastructure and adoption. I think that's a really, really interesting topic, as infrastructure is actually the main pillar of DeFi, which is also needed for then building adoption in the end. And before starting, I would like my panelists to introduce themselves and their companies. Who would like to start? Maybe from the side, yeah, perfect.
Is this on? Yeah, good. Yeah, my name is Alex Pauschat. I work with Chainlink Labs. Very happy to hear Alex talking also about Chainlink Labs, and happy to be here with you today.
My name is, hello. It is? Hello? Yeah. Hello? Yeah? No. Okay. So my name is Mike Jort, so head of sales for Chainalysis here in Germany, and yeah, looking after the private sector in Germany.
Hi, my name is Thomas. I'm responsible for sales and business development at Blockchain Capital. Blockchain is a fintech based here in Frankfurt, and we're also providing reliable and compliant crypto data to market participants as a data provider, and are also running Oracle nodes in decentralized Oracle networks like Chainlink since 2020. So happy to be here. Thanks for the discussion. I'm looking forward.
Perfect. Hi, my name is Alex, connecting to this, running Chainlink infrastructure, luckily on our infrastructure as well. So co-founder of Web3 Telecom Center of Excellence, and yeah, doing telecom staking since 2.5 years.
Perfect, thank you very much. And I would like to open the panel with the first question, as we're talking also about financial markets. How do you guys envision the future of DeFi infrastructure and its impact on the global financial ecosystem? Maybe we start with you, Thomas.
Thanks for this question. I think DeFi is providing big opportunities to, the whole financial ecosystem, since this will be, from my point of view, a decentralized open infrastructure run globally and allowing everyone to participate in, meaning especially in parts of the world where you have some unbanked parts with people with no access today to banking services. This will provide great opportunities to participate in the system in the future, to be able to use banking solutions like you have it in the traditional finance world, which will build more and more also in the DeFi, decentralized finance space as well, I think.
Thank you. Alex, what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, what we're seeing, as you probably know already, we've grown, especially with DeFi, since 2017. DeFi is like the first big use case where we've grown, and we have expanded to many more things like NFTs and so on. But what we see is a lot of parallelisms between traditional finance and DeFi. So what we're seeing right now is the derivative space. We had a really good presentation before from iPro. So we see like derivatives is really the next big thing, and as the next big thing, it will also allow a lot of players in the DeFi space to do risk management, as we've seen in the 70s, 80s, and with derivatives. And through that, that's what we're doing also as a trust minimized service provider in the space. We're trying to continue to expand in the DeFi space.
Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
So my opinion is, even if you really see a lot of opportunities coming from DeFi, we have to make sure that the normal, I would call it retail customer, is educated. So, because at the end, for the retail customer, he doesn't care about if it is DeFi, if it is CeFi, or if it is TradFi. He wants to have kind of easy entry points. He wants to be in a secure environment. And therefore, I think there's a big gap between all of us sitting here, understanding DeFi, CeFi, TradFi, the differences and how they play together. But I think there's a lot of education to do to have the educated customer, and that the customer also sees the opportunity to come to us to a DeFi world, because without that retail customer, there's no opportunity for all of us.
Correct.
Maybe to add this. So I would say this is more or less the natural habitat of Deutsche Telekom, the connection to the retail customer or to the normal customer. So because we are a connectivity telco company, and this is the exact point what we see if we have the discussion with our customers as well with our stakeholders in our company, that this is DeFi. it's too complicated by now. No? The hurdles are too high. For example, you need on Ethereum, you need firstly ETH if you want to do anything because of the transaction cost. Luckily, we have now account abstraction that, for example, we can maybe sponsor one of these transactions. Could be some nice business model for us as well. So we see that there is slightly a little bit of adoption, but we need this much more. And we need more adoption here. The hurdles need get way lower than we actually have.
So we heard a lot about hurdles when we come to the retail market. Thomas, what other challenges do you see for like a widespread adoption of DeFi?
Yeah, basically, I absolutely agree. Education is, I think, one of the most important points from my point of view, because you have to understand what can you use, what's in for you, what is the added value here. And additionally, the second point is the kind of user experience you have, right? If you have to understand like 5 different solutions, how to handle this and how to buy first a stable coin maybe to be able to participate in the DeFi world, then change this the stable coin again against another currency and so on, to be able to use different components of DeFi. This is much too complex, much too difficult to understand. And it's a real hurdle from my point of view to really get adoption into all opportunities DeFi has, right? And I think this understanding will have to be built up. This takes time, this takes a lot of education. It's also what we are doing each and every day. And then the ecosystem as a third point has to be built up and has to grow, providing different, I would say, parts of the system to really enable those smart contracts, those DeFi applications to work properly, right? This might be data, this might also be some kind of AML and fraud prevention, right? And reducing the risk for the users and for the investors and all those participants.
Perfect. Mike, can you maybe tell us how analytics and risk management tools can maybe help retail customers, but also institutions, to better adopt DeFi in the future?
I think so our approach is B2B. So we selling our solutions in the direction of the financial industry. It's not B2C, it's not helping the customer, even if we publish reports. So that probably helps also the retail customer to understand if he's interested in what happens outside there in the DeFi world, what means crypto crime or something like that. So we can help, especially the DeFi environment and the companies and the industry in the context to provide that transparency, which is needed to understand if I am in the guardrails of the regulator on the one hand, if I'm tapping into any pitfalls of criminality on the other hand, because everything, and that's a difference to TradFi and also the difference to the cryptocurrency world. Everything in DeFi is written to the blockchain. There is nothing you can do outside of the blockchain. There is nothing you can do off-chain. And that's the main difference. So if you compare it to the cryptocurrency world, there is 1 of 5 transactions on the blockchains, but 4 of 5 transactions are off-chain. So there is some intransparency, and DeFi has the main advantage that we don't have that intransparency, and we have everything on the blockchain, and that makes it very transparent. And based on that blockchain analytics we can provide all the necessary insights to be compliant to AML, to be compliant in regard of regulation, to minimize the risk of every DeFi approach.
I mean, looking at Chainlink in this respect, how can you help in this respect to build trust and adoption?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very good point. I mean, what we provide is basically trust minimized services, and that's what we will continue doing. So we're a security company. And so in the first phase, what we've done is, like, if you look back in the last 40 months, we have probably enabled about 7 trillion in value in the DeFi space. We manage around 70% of what is happening in the DeFi space. So I think we're a key provider, key infrastructure provider and security provider in the space. And the next challenge, I think, as was mentioned before, is like really what we call blockchain abstraction. It's like trying to make it simpler for everyone. But I think it doesn't try and make it simpler only for the end users, which is not really where we are. We're like a B2B company. It's really like also like making it easier for institutional players, where we have a lot of talks with different institutional players into getting this market, because as they operate with different blockchains, different elements of the DeFi space, I think Alexander exposed this really well before with Max. It's quite complex also for these players to get over all the hurdles, and so yeah, we're a key partner for them too.
Perfect. When I think about telecom, I think also about the German environment regulation. Do you have an idea how the regulator can make it easy for us to actually make adoption happening? Or what is the role of telecom? Do you talk to regulators, for example, or what is your place in there?
Don't know if I can talk to this or if I can disclose this information, but I think the regulation in Germany
is yes.
it's quite good, right? So it's good that you have the barriers left and right, and you know where you can move and where you can offer your service. With crypto custodianship, I think the guidelines are quite good and quite good. And as I mentioned in the presentation before, so our idea is do it now, apologize later. So this is the mission. So yeah, we have our legal assumptions and our legal paperwork. What is DeFi? What is if we're offering our staking service? What means this for us? And is this maybe an legal agreement or non-legal agreement? And then it's okay. So we're doing now and don't wait on any regulational decisions here. We want to go in the discussion with the regulator in Germany, definitely, but we don't really wait for this decision to be taken. We want to be part of this discussion, actively part of this discussion. Only one point to highlight to the transparency. This is brilliant for our treasury department, legal and audit department, because so we're offering staking service, so we're receiving rewards on chain, Chainlink, so we're using gas for our service, also Ether for our service, receiving link, and everything is transparent on the ledger. So we can't change this, no, we can't adjust this. So they, as always, make a nice double check if our monitoring and our audit information are fit to the information to his on-chain. This is really brilliant. They like this very much because they understand this, that they have more or less a perfect audit trail here. It's really cool.
But that is for sure not the only thing that motivated Telecom to actually join the DeFi market, right? Are there other reasons?
Yeah, definitely. So as we already mentioned, so we see as in Web 2-ish as an infrastructure provider. We know how to run infrastructure, how to run connectivity for people, connectivity for servers, for software and for companies. And this is for us a complete logical next step, that we can run Web3 infrastructure, that we can run services like Chainlink and other services on our infrastructure, and that we can secure with these infrastructure the Web3 movement, yeah.
Alex, how do you see the DeFi world evolving in the next years, and what role does Chainlink play in this adoption and this evolution?
Yeah, well, I mean, we see a number of different trends. I mean, it really depends. I think someone pointed to it before in one of the previous presentations, but depending on how the markets evolve, I mean, I think DeFi, I believe, will certainly play a key role, but one of the key trends we see is clearly real-world assets, which is upcoming very much. So we have a lot of demand for that in many of the conversations. And we talk like with, I don't know, we have 2,000 protocols that are working with Chainlink dApps, and we talk to almost every other all protocols in the world. And that's the trend. So I think real-world assets, if the circumstances are right, that certainly will be a big thing.
Does anybody have something to add to that? Maybe from your point of view, how is your company shaping the future? Or what do you see? How do you participate?
So the DeFi world needs a slightly different approach in regard of blockchain analysis, because mainly if you look into the different use cases, it's not only one transaction. So what we've done in the past is transaction monitoring in the cryptocurrency world. That was easy. So that is transaction, there's a transaction hash, and you see where are and what the players are in regard of risk. So where are they involved? So we can trace to the source of funds and understand if there is a risk involved into that transaction. So in the DeFi world, it's more complex. complex. So, and we already developed tools for the different approaches. For example, if you have an NFT sale, so it's not only a transaction of the NFT across different marketplaces, that's also tied a transaction of cryptocurrencies to pay for that NFT and to make it visible that that transactions 2, 3, 5, or 10 different transactions belong together. We have made or built a tool that we can bring that transparency to the DeFi world too, that all the transactions that belongs together also seen together, and that you have that visibility to understand what is the risk out of that different transactions, which at the end belong together. So just for one example. So there are so many other use cases coming up, probably we don't see yet. And we are trying to solve all the requirements or to fit into the requirements of the different protocols, use cases, and everything else. It's a dynamic process for us to develop our products.
Perfect. Thomas, we heard about risk management, and for risk management, market data is really important. How do you ensure the accuracy of the market data you are providing?
Yeah, absolutely a good question. So this is exactly our focus when we are trying to foster the growth of the DeFi ecosystem. So maybe just one word before, why do you need market data there? If you look at the DeFi ecosystem, then you have many smart contracts acting as a kind of applications on blockchains, operating the DeFi use cases and solutions. But you have a central kind of problem or a kind of challenge. Many of those decentralized applications need off-chain data, reliable off-chain data to operate properly. I mean, to get the correct action. So it's really essential to have reliable data which you can use as a smart contract to trigger some followed actions. And what we do here is, since we are in a decentralized world, we collect data from different sources, multiple sources. This, on the one hand, are centralized exchanges where we are connected to directly, and decentralized exchanges as well. And we also have cooperations with other data providers where we also take data from. And what we do then is a kind of quality assurance, where we, in the first step, know, of course, from our many years of experience, which source is reliable and which not. So we only take a kind of highly rated sources into account. And in a second step, we also have algorithm-based outlier detections, filtering out prices, for example, which differ a lot from other sources before we calculate our own average prices, which are volume weighted and which we then distribute to decentralized Oracle networks or to smart contract applications directly on chain.
Perfect. So we heard about off-chain data, and one question to Alex again: how do you see the relationship between like the traditional financial sector and the DeFi sector and your company? Does collaboration make sense? How can collaboration look like, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I think collaboration is clearly happening. I mean, we're talking to a number of key TradFi players already. And I think, I mean, I've been in the space since 2013, and so I think the banks and many other traditional players, they've been trying to be in the space for a long time. It just takes much longer. I think, again, T-Systems made a good case about why it takes much longer. But yeah, I think they're clearly moving that direction, and they're analyzing all steps, and we're working with them. It's just we cannot talk too much yet about in what direction this goes, but yeah, I mean, they're clearly going this direction. I think they see the efficiencies and opportunities in the space.
Mike, do you see any kind of inherent conflict between DeFi and CeFi, for example? Are there?
No, not really. So I think for CeFi or even for TradFi, that's a big business opportunity because we need that gateway into the DeFi world. We already spoke about convenience. So it's really, really difficult. It's a complex process to onboard or on-ramp into the DeFi world. And I think TradFi and CeFi has all the mechanisms in place to have a secure gateway into that world. And I think a partnership is better than I don't see any conflict between both of them, because TradFi and CeFi can position there, and they are also in the future the gateway into the world, because we need that gateway. There's nothing we natively can do from beginning in the DeFi world. We need an entry point, and that, in my opinion, will be CeFi or TradFi.
So Alex, do you have the same opinion as like a centralized company, like engaging with DeFi? Are there any conflicts you see at the moment, like hurdles to overcome, to really talk to like DeFi people, which are sometimes a bit reluctant to talk to centralized parties?
So are we so centralized company? I don't know, because we have some other, for example, T-Mobile US is one of the most important part of our company, so we are quite decentralized. But yeah, so I would say, the classic institutional legacy finance don't need to see DeFi as an enemy as well as other way around. I think Christoph mentioned this yesterday. It's not, you need to work together and to leverage the advantages of both worlds that you can push here. But yeah, if you think, or we think, and position DeFi in the core concept, you want to lower, or you want to higher the efficiency and lower the cost that the traditional finance and legacy system has. And maybe there will be some disruption, but I would say, so we as telco company already have saw these disruption in our own industry. We saw other players who tackle our market, but you need to have some smart people there, smart tech people, smart nerds, I would say, who can react on this challenge to use the technology who's there. So Web3 is there. You can do whatever you want. This will never be going away. So use this technology and the advantages for your own business model. And this works quite well. So on our side, definitely.
So Thomas, I think that also, especially market data, has its fair share in building this trust, right?
Absolutely, as I mentioned before, this is really essential for all those smart contracts working properly, using the correct and right data. And this is a way also to create the kind of transparency to reduce the risk to enter into this new ecosystem, and to foster this adoption, which you will have then, which will need to have the growth there.
There's maybe one point I missed, and we had this discussion as always in our company as well with T-Mobile. Yes, it's reputation and identity. This is a complex topic in Germany as well as in the European Union. We had a lot of cool safe zone identity movements here inside Germany, but I would say DeFi needs a kind of identity. I would say reputation. Users' reputation, protocol reputations. I think this would be a good need and a challenge for at least for this year and the next year, that we get reputation systems and identity for DeFi.
Mike, when we talk about DeFi, we're also talking about illicit activities, for example. How can your company help in tracking these activities, and then in the end also make it comfortable for companies engaging with DeFi without like breaking any compliance regulations?
Probably first some numbers to underline that. So what we saw in 2022 was that 95% of all the hacks in the cryptocurrency environment, and that covers all CeFi, DeFi approaches, all cryptocurrency-related activities, 95% coming from DeFi. So that were DeFi hacks. So we see a high vulnerability because DeFi is based on protocols. Protocols are based on software, and software have some vulnerabilities in it. So there is no fault-free, failure-free software, I would say. And what we can do is, even if we are not auditing, tracking, proving the completeness, the right approach of a protocol or a software, what we can see is, if a software, a protocol, a smart contract behave in the right direction. So we can prove it because we see once there is a transaction, once there is something written against a blockchain, we can see that and we can analyze it. So what we also can see is, for example, different patterns, behavioral patterns in regard of criminal activities like wash trading scenarios, for example. And we help the industry to understand that, highly automate to understand that. It's not about just providing a red flag and then leave you alone with it. It's about there is a highly automated process behind that, that the effort and the efficiency in regard of AML activities on our customer side as low as it could be. So there is manual interaction necessary. If there is a red flag, you need to do something. There is a process defined by internal compliance. There's a process defined by, for example, the regulator. But you also mentioned how, in regard of the regulator, what is Chainalysis doing in that case? So to be honest, if you look into the German market, so there's not too much regulated at the moment. What we see is that is more, and many of my panelists already mentioned that that's an ongoing discussion. My wish would be that it would be a discussion in try and fail fast approach, because just to discuss regulation up front, any possible use cases would be the death of the use case. And therefore, I would say, let's try it, let's have a discussion, let's have kind of public-private partnership established, that we have the right regulation in Germany, in the EU, for probably also different use cases. I think there's not only one approach, because there are so many different colors of DeFi. We are not aware yet, so they will come up once DeFi has more established in the world.
Maybe looking at Chainlink, what is your perspective in regulation? So not like the character of regulation per se, but I have the feeling that Europe is pretty, not like harmonized. How is Chainlink acting with that? If you're talking to different kind of parties, for example.
Well, we're not really involved or affected by regulation in the sense that we are an infrastructure provider, we're a security company, and as a security company, we just try to give the best possible data and make sure that this happens. I mean, for the different products we have data feeds, for example, where we make it possible basically for the DeFi space to operate for the time being. And we have randomness solutions, we have automation solutions. So that's what we focus on. We're basically a B2B business, and our goal is it goes back to what Jörg was saying before, is that that they can rely on a strong partner and an infrastructure that will work, and so we don't get it's not that part of our business.
Do you guys have anything to add to that? So, for example, when we talk about regulation, for example, are you, when the regulator is like needing to have certain kind of data, are you listening to that? Are you trying to fill the gap?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a very important piece of the puzzle, I would say. Since we are building solutions for the B2B market directed to institutional investors, it's really important to have a kind of regulatory framework where you can be sure what is allowed and what not, and how you can act, and in a certainty that you can be sure, okay, nothing is blocked later on. But what is important from my point of view is a kind of meaningful regulation, right? As said before, it shouldn't come to the end that we block the opportunities we have here in the DeFi ecosystem before they even are able to build and to grow into the system. So you have to have a kind of a frame, but not hindering all those from the very beginning, right?
Perfect. I see Sarah standing up already, but to close the panel, I would like to close with the best use cases you see for like driving mass adoption. And maybe you could say in like 1 or 2 sentences from your point of view, what is the prime use case for DeFi? Maybe starting with you.
Maybe, honestly, we're talking the whole panel about DeFi. I would love to see use cases, for example, on Ethereum beside of DeFi. So this would be really cool, because if we have our internal discussion with our management and with our techs and devs, we're asking, okay, what is there beside of DeFi on blockchain and on Web3. So sorry to step out a little bit. I would really see that we have some use cases with a lot of traction beside of DeFi.
Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo that. I think DeFi has clearly proven, I mean, since I joined the space 10 years ago, we talked for many, many years about what is the use case, and we could never really explain it. We had a tough time. And like, yeah, Bitcoin is the next payment system. I think DeFi has really proven that it's here to stay. I think there will be really interesting things happening in the NFT space also. Right now, or what has been so far, yes, it's like the early stages, but I think the more interesting things will probably still happen. We don't know that, and that's why what we do, to some extent, or sometimes I'd like to think about ourselves as an intelligence company, since we have colleagues working almost all aspects of the crypto space. What we do a lot is also a lot of analysis. We try to pick up those trends and then provide help for those use cases and the security infrastructure we have.
For me, the most exciting use case, the most exciting one, will be the one not known yet. So I echo the colleague from Telecom, and yeah, I see there's a lot of space coming from, a lot of use cases coming from Web3, and I'm really excited about that.
Perfect. Thomas, you have the honor of closing the panel.
Thanks a lot. I mean, this is really right, and this is exciting about DeFi. I mean, today we see lots of use cases which are kind of related to the traditional finance world, because those are the first ones, the obvious ones. And the most amazing things will be the future. Just one word, where we are right now, what I see in the traditional finance industry, who's really interested in what's going on in DeFi as well, they are, I think right now, really interested in creating some passive income, additional passive income products for their clients. So maybe, at least today, lending or staking is a good use case to further adopt this.
Perfect. So thank you very much, guys. It was an honor talking to you, and see you soon. Thank you to
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.